Okay, maybe we'll go through here. So this is our compost, one of our compost zones. We make a lot of our own compost, but I'm making less and less compost all the time because the soil health is already there. We treat the soil health like a flywheel. Like we had to put a lot of energy in when we first started to get that flywheel going. But now that it's going, we just do a little seasonal tick to kind of keep it going. And we do that by building, we also do biodynamic farming. So we make high quality biodynamic compost, and then we brew that out into compost tea. And we use that compost tea to inoculate our fresh beds or anything that we feel needs it. And then we do a lot of composting just in place. We allow roots to stay in the ground. We allow as much plant material to stay on top of the soil as possible, or we use cover crops like this. We'll be planting in here soon, but I'm allowing this light weed rash to be there to help stabilize the soil and build the microorganisms.
But will you till then before
I will
you
not
plant?
till. So if I do have to heavily work the soil, this is what I use, which is a broad fork, also known as a U-bar. And this goes into the soil. I'll just demonstrate here. You stand on it, and then you just lightly lift back, and it just breaks up the soil enough to aerate it. And it doesn't change the soil strata. So your top layer stays on the top, your bottom layer stays on the bottom. And so all of these beds that you see here, all the way up and over there, they may have been U-barred. If you U-bar a bed and you mulch it and you don't walk on it and stuff, you only need to do that like once every 3 or 4 years.
So how do you prevent the cover crop from competing with what you're planting?
I will just lightly rake it out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then the chickens were on here. So we do intensive animal management as part of our nutrient cycling system. So the chickens were on here in the wintertime. They scratched it down to bare earth. This has just lightly come in the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
So it's very shallowly rooted. I can just go through there with a rake basically and tease that out of there. And then I'll re-dig in the paths and just kind of reform the beds. But I won't need to do any heavy soil tilling or lifting. So I say tilling is killing because it purees the soil. It mincemeats all the worms. It chops all the roots into little itty bitty pieces that'll all resprout. It wrecks the soil structure, and it takes all the organic matter and volatilizes it, and that all off gases and leaves the system. And so the minimal amount you can work that soil, you keep the worms alive, the organic matter intact, the soil crumb structure intact, and yeah, it's less work, less noisy. I use a few hand tools. The scythe I use a lot, and the U-bar, and they're both very ergonomic. Like you just use your body weight to stand this down and your body weight to lean it back, and it's even. You're not like pitchforking. Have you ever used a rototiller? Like that'll kill you. It's like at the end of the day, it's just like I'm miserable.
So how about rodent population? Because that's always been an issue for me when I just mulch and I don't break up the habitat.
Cats, eagles, I just try and balance it out. We do have vole issues and field mice.
Yeah, just over.
But you just try and deal with it. We have 4 cats on the property. They get some.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, with all of the trees, do they get any kind of insect diseases? Because I've used compost tea for some of that, and I don't know if you've done that practice.
I have not extensively for trees. Each disease I treat differently depending upon what it is and where it is in context. A lot of times, I mean, any disease or pest, basically, my general feeling is something's out of balance. Like, does it not have a predator? Is it too wet, too dry, not enough airflow? What's going on? So I look at not what the symptom is, what the problem is, and try and deal with that. Give it more airflow, bring in more pest predators, those kind of solutions, rather than go to sprays or something else that you have to do yourself. So I'm trying to help nature come back into balance. So encouraging that balance rather than, a lot of times if you just do a knee-jerk reaction, oh, I'm going to spray or I'm going to do this or that, you throw things further out of whack, and this pendulum goes back and forth, and it takes longer to come back into equilibrium. So a lot of times if I have an issue, I'll just do a wait and see kind of thing. And sometimes it fixes itself. Other times, you know, maybe you need to do something, but you really have to learn and study the issue. Okay, we will walk on up through here. So we're standing right under a pine nut tree. This is Italian stone pine. We grow a lot of nut trees here because I'm really into no-till and perennial proteins. So these are storage crops that, like, you don't have to can or dry or freeze or preserve in any way. You get them out of the shell if you beat the squirrels to them, and they will store on the shelf. So we grow heart nuts, chestnuts, butternuts, hazelnuts, and pine nuts. And this one has 8 pine cones on there right now up in the top. The pine cones take, well, the tree takes about 15 years to come into production. The pine cones take 3 years to mature. And then if at some point, I know you all can't see it right now, but if you come over here and look right there, you can see one of the pine cones. Each pine cone has about between 100 and 150 nuts in it when it's mature. So we are really big on, we're nuts about nuts. And we're loony about fruits. All that stuff. So, and then because this is Italian stone pine, it likes really well-drained soil and full sun. But what else likes that? Rosemary, fig, pine, goji berry. All of these things are right next to it in that same region.
Are you finding varieties of plum that are black knot resistant?
I have not. You know, and most of the really black knot prone ones are my favorite ones, which are Asian plums. So I just try and propagate ahead of them and try and knock out as much black knot as possible.